Hello. Oh. um, I am. I'm going to use this space to talk about the process that I'm in right now with my current comic, which is called Also True, which is hopefully going to be actually available for you to read starting very soon. Oh yeah, this plant needs to go. But this is a big new project for me in more ways than one. It's not graphic medicine. It's actually a fiction story that I think is mostly going to be like a horror story with a strong relational element to it. And it's a little supernatural. So this is a brand new thing for me, and I'm super excited. As you can probably see, if you peek up there, it involves werewolves, which I'm just thrilled about. It's so much fun. Every part of this is so much fun. I am very much in love with this story. And I've learned that talking about my process is super helpful for me. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. Once a month in my newsletter, I'm going to record a video like this where I just get to blab at you about what I'm thinking with this comic, all the stuff that's going on, my research, my developments, the process of actually forming the structure of a long-term, long-form comic. Um, I don't think I've ever had this much like mental or emotional space to make plans this way and to actually maybe execute my plans and learn in the process. So this is exciting. Definitely very looking forward to sharing it with you. I've already been in this mode for about a year, but a lot of that was just preparatory thinking. And I guess that's the first thing that I want to say is like any story that I write, anything that I think I'm going to make in the world, it actually sits in my head first and foremost for many weeks or months before anything comes out, before I even need to think about it in concrete terms. It's got to be occupying space, it's got to be keeping my daydreaming alive before it actually starts to take shape. So I've been daydreaming about this for, you know, I'm gonna say like 9 months, 10 months, and then just 2 or 3 months ago, it really started to turn on and to become real. So here I am in my studio. This is my studio in my little cabin in the woods. It's killer. It's my favorite place in the world. It's also kind of a mess. I mean, I think this is the cleanest part of it. Over here we have my computer desk, which is like, hey, it's I could clean that up. I should probably clean that up for my own sake. And this is where I teach my classes from. So if you're someone who has been in class with me, then you'd recognize that background because I sit here and you can see back there. Um, and yeah, this is where I live most of my work life. So, okay, let's get going. Let me show you some stuff. Okay, so let me tell you about this story in as brief a time as I can. It can be a real challenge. Okay, so the comic is called Also True. It is the story of two women who meet and fall in love at a point when they are both in very different processes in their lives. So one of them, who is based on me, like that's the rooting in reality that I find makes the fiction really exciting to play with. So her name is Nell, Eleanor, but Nell for short. And she has moved to a cabin in the woods in rural Newfoundland, such as this one, so that she can deal with her chronic illness in a new way, trying to reconnect with nature, reconnect with her body. She's trying to like unlock whatever is taking place inside of her. And she meets Siobhan, who goes by Shiv. Thank you, Succession, for being an excellent show and having that excellent naming convention. So Siobhan, or Shiv, is a woman living in downtown St. John's. She is a trans, queer, punk activist, radio producer, and musician. And she has lived in Newfoundland her whole life, but started in central Newfoundland and had basically a lot of really overt experiences of violence and oppression and and abuse of various kinds. But she is staking her claim, living in this urban environment of St. John's, finding queer family, finding a balance for herself that exists around both being protected and also being active and out there in the world. And she is also secretly a werewolf. So she's actually doing the opposite thing, where Nell is trying to unleash something. Shiv is trying to protect and control and hold this secret, even though she lives a life that has already had a lot of bravery in it, that has already included a lot of confrontation and a lot of struggle. The secret of being supernatural is one that is in addition to all of those other experiences of hers. Her werewolfism is not a metaphor, is what I'm trying to say. And so the two come together. They share a lot, but they also are on diverging paths. And basically from there, it goes really bad. This is a horror story. This is a very relationship heavy story, but one that is in the genre of horror, or like a hybrid horror situation. I'm playing a lot with these three ideas: the idea of human, the idea of animal, and the idea of monster, and how those things interact, and who decides what they are, and what are the limits, where are the lines, where does something being natural cross over into being supernatural. How do people respond to those things also, which is very interesting. But mostly for the first section, at least, or what I've been calling the first book in my head, because this could be a very long project, the first section is really exploring how two people fall in love when they're navigating a secret. One of them is very consciously navigating a secret, but not including the other, even as they pursue intimacy. And the other is, learning as they go, trying to be respectful of their differences, but also pursuing a path that is, antithetical to the secret keeping. So yeah, I mean, for me, like, I'm just learning about horror because I've spent my entire life being absolutely terrified all the time, not just of horror, but just like, I've had anxiety since I was born. When I was a kid, I didn't speak very much. So that might give you like an indication of how intensely overwhelmed I was by the world. And that's what I needed to cope with when I chose drawing as my activity. So another hallmark of this project being so different from everything that I've done before is that my graphic medicine works from the past were done in a really kind of stripped down cartooning style. And actually my first book, Dumb, that book to me is a document of me learning how to draw that way, because I hadn't drawn in a long time and I was trying to do something new and make it simple so that I could sustain it through all of my own anxieties. So I developed that style through making that book, and that book is now just a living document of that thing. But the thing is, I've been drawing since I was a kid, and the way I used to draw, especially when I sort of moved from being a child who was just like engrossing herself in imagined worlds to like, I guess, high school, I really moved into photorealism with my drawing. And so I used to draw like portraits of my friends and make them as accurate as possible. Like, I really wanted to capture light. I really wanted it to be exactly what their faces look like. No interpretation, no taking liberties, no like movement of energy, just like capturing it. So for those of you who only know me through my comics work, the way that I'm drawing this new project is going to look brand new. But the way I experience drawing this project is that it's actually the old version of me making art. But I'm kind of merging the two because I've learned so much from the expressive style of making comics that I've used for the past 10 years. I'm now trying to bring that expressive style and bring some of that energy and movement and simplicity into this more lush, sensual space. So it's going to look extremely different than anything that you've ever seen from me before. For now, I'm not going to show any pictures or pages. I'm drawing, but it's a bit more exploratory than it is like finishing a page. And that's a big part of this project, is that the project is really big. I'm inventing the narrative, which is different thing entirely for me. And I need to have a bit more of a structure and a bit more of a plan. Because when I moved out here, I did buy my house, and that has changed my financial responsibilities and made all of my priorities have to like, reorganize and shift. And it's a learning curve, I'll tell you that. So stuff is coming. I am very excited to use this space for a very important part of my process, and that is talking it out. I think for a long time about the things that I want to say, but then when I get into writing mode, which is where I've been now for the last like 2 or 3 months, writing mode for me is like, we're actually doing something with these ideas now. And now it's about problem solving. And now it's about finding interesting moments and through lines. And there's a lot more detail, but it's also still very much like the entire story taking shape at once. So I can't hold that all in my head. I love talking about things. I love to share the moments of excitement, little breakthroughs. I need to talk out the struggles. And this space is going to let me do that. So I'm thinking once a month, you're going to get a video that's about 10 minutes of me going through some aspect of this process and just letting you be along for the ride. I'll also share some of the media that I'm consuming, because that's a big part of my process too, is I'm noticing that habits of mine, like watching a lot of television or movies or reading a lot or listening to a lot of podcasts, I have at various points in my life addressed each of those things as like a compulsion or addiction almost, because I do like fall way into those things at the detriment of other aspects of my life. But I've learned that I am learning when I'm consuming stories. I'm learning when I'm watching a movie. I'm learning when I'm listening to something. All of that is actually something I can use now. And I do feel like I have more choice in the matter, which is fantastic. So I'll definitely give you my movie recommendations and tell you the books that I'm reading and let you in on the process of, what I'm taking from each of those spaces that I then think will be useful in this project. Because there's no rules about how to make a book. You can take whatever you need, borrow, steal, integrate. I mean, the fact is, unless you're copying something word for word and shot for shot, it's got your spin on it. There's a ton of interpretation going on that you can actually own. So I'm not saying like, go ahead and just grab other people's work, but I am saying if someone in a television show like says a line that you think is perfect for your work, like use it. And in my case, I can give credit in these spaces by saying this is where I got that line from. And also I'm thinking more about including process in this book once it's actually published, because I think this whole thing is really fascinating and I want to share it. Wow, I'm learning so much about comics by making a new kind of comic. It's an age of exploration I'm very excited about. So that's all I'm going to say today. This video has been long enough already, but I'm just, I'm getting excited for having another space where I can learn more about my process and share more about my process with you. And please like talk back to me, like give me your comments, your questions. Maybe some of these videos will turn into that, where they'll be like question and answer or show and tell or something along those lines. We can play. This is our space. So thank you so much for being here and for giving me another avenue to explore my creativity. And don't forget that I teach classes all the time and you might be interested in those too. Okay, bye for now. Just a little sneak peek, just a little bit. I'll show you just a little bit. Oh, there's something that's probably going to change. There's something that's probably going to change. There's some pages looking kind of spooky, kind of woodsy. Oh, okay, that's enough for now. Also, check out this wall. It's pretty good, eh? Okay, see you later.